Hello and welcome to this short video to introduce you to the reporting suite for Back to School 2025. So first off, I want to point out that we want folks to be able to easily access the reporting suite. So teachers can access the reporting suite in one click after they've entered their data by clicking Reports in the upper right of their spreadsheet. For leaders, they have a lot of one-click access ways on the pacing page. So they can click, here we've got this unit highlighted, that's what we call a part. If the leader clicks there, they'll have a report with those three assessments. They can also click larger groups, what we call programs. So if you click the universal screeners, you'd be looking at all of those universal screeners assessments. So don't be afraid to click around on that pacing page and go after that reporting suite if you're a teacher from the spreadsheet. However, I'm going to switch over here now that I've talked about the easy ways, and we're going to do the slightly more complex way, which is by accessing the reporting suite through the left sidebar. I'm impersonating a leader here. Teachers can access the reporting suite in the same way. We'll just have different levels of permission for data. In this case, I'm going to click Create a New Report to start from scratch, and then I will be prompted to select an entity. An entity is just an intentionally vague term we use to define the data that you're looking at. You'll see what those entities can be are standards, assessments, or questions on an assessment. In this case, we're going to be looking at some first grade universal screener data. So I'm going to go ahead and add both. I'm going to add a number sense standard so we can look at a standard. We'll look at numbers, words and sequences, and place value. And then I'm also going to add the fall screener. So you'll see here, I'm clicking through what is in my resources folder. In my demo account, I have a lot. You may have a lot less, which may make it easier to click through. We've got some options for efficiency here. Do note that we've got that option to select all. I'm clicking through and finding things by clicking through that breadcrumb trail up there, but I've got the assessment that I want. So I can see I've got these three entities, then I'm going to click Next. So in the reporting suite, we try to guess which group of students you want to look at. So in this case, because I'm impersonating a district leader, my default is that I'm looking at first grade across the whole district. And the groups of students are what we call cohorts. So as I just said, we're looking at a cohort that is all first grade students on these different entities. So we've got the two standards side by side with how students did overall. Some things about cohorts, there's lots of ways to aggregate data, and folks can aggregate data in smaller or larger cohorts or groups based on whatever they want to look at. You can look at larger benchmark groups. You'll only ever be able to access personally identifying information of students that you have access to. So for a teacher, you can do a comparison of your class against your school. As you're thinking about that collaborative element, you can touch base with your fellow team teachers and see where those students need support. Let's say as I'm here as the district leader, I also want to look at a school. Over here at the green plus sign, I can click that, and that gives me the option of a new cohort. I, in this case, just want to look at a school. And first grade is the group of students I'm looking at, and the school, I'm going to focus on Wilma Rudolph here. We'll see that Wilma Rudolph is leading the charge in getting that data entered. So right now, the only data in the district is coming from Wilma Rudolph. Again, beginning of the year, that's fairly common. You can see too that I grabbed and rearranged those, so you can change the order that things are in. And you can modify cohorts in other ways to kind of show what that looks like, show that there's a difference between the district and the school. I'm going to click this three-dot menu here, and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to actually look at historic data. So I want to see data from last year. You'll see that changes that numbers a little bit, those numbers a little bit. So now we can start thinking about historic data. What trends are you noticing before you've even given an assessment? Do you know what students might be struggling with in advance? So again, just kind of added that year just so you could see the difference between those cohorts. Few other things to look at here. One thing that can be really important for leaders is understanding, is the data that we're expecting to be entered? And I'm going to pop this back to our regular term here, since that's kind of a common back to school use case. And we can see that actually we're missing a lot of data right now. So if I was a leader and this was my real school, I'd know that I needed to go and support some teachers with getting that data in. One thing I can also do is I can click in the table and see student names. This is where that component of you're only going to be able to see this information for students that you have access to. As a district leader, you have access to all students. If your list gets really long, we'll have to have you download that, but you can start understanding which students are falling in which buckets. Couple other things on here. I said this would be a short video. What I'll remind you is we do a lot of on-demand webinars around reporting. Our reporting suite is very flexible and powerful, which means there's a lot you can do, and there's also a lot to learn. So those are a really great format to learn more. So a few more things I'll hit here. On the cohort size display, you'll see I can also toggle on a percentage. So that can help you see kind of if you're more interested in doing that comparison versus numbers, we want to have it with percentages, you can do that. Other important thing up here in the upper right is how you switch between report types. So because I'm looking at both standards and an assessment right now, you'll see that all of these reports are going to work for me. Some reports look at standards data, some look at assessment data. In this case, I've got both types of entities, so I can look at anything. One I want to hit here is the question analysis. So this is a really valuable tool for teachers as after you've given assessment, understanding which student or which questions were strengths for students, which questions students might need some additional help. You'll see I'm clicking that number at the bottom to see what the question is. I can see what standards are aligned. If it's a program that's pre-configured with them, I can even see what my next steps for instruction are for those questions that were challenging for my students. So lots I can do there. If teachers click, the reports from the spreadsheet will automatically take them to this report just because it's so valuable. But there's lots to explore here. Well, like I said, we have more comprehensive webinars. I don't want to hit all of it. I'll just highlight my favorite report, which is the Sankey chart. So what the Sankey chart shows is how students are moving between two data points. So I'm going to toggle off the screener here, and let's recap what we're looking at. So on the left, we're looking at how students did on number of words and sequences, and on the right, how they did on place value. We are looking at the whole district, which is just one class right now, but as other teachers got data in, that would fill in. But what's interesting about this report is it shows how students change between two entities. So it's less interesting with fake data like this, but what you can see is for students who are successful on number, words, and sequences, 11 students were successful on both. Then we have some students that were having some trouble with number, words, and sequences, but they've actually got place value figured out. So fake data, so it's not that insightful, but this can be a really valuable report when you're looking at assessment growth over time. So you can see how students are moving much more specifically than just the line graph or the line chart, which we do have the line chart. But that Sankey chart just gives a much more kind of nuanced approach to growth. So that's my favorite. If you are excited to learn more about the reporting suite, I'll point you in a couple directions. First off, in the upper right, you can click and open our support documents. So in there, understanding and using data is where you can access this information, which this is going to be in there, so you might already know that. But the other thing worth knowing is that we have a website called forefront.education/training, and this is where you're going to find a lot of those on-demand webinars, which is often where we dig into reports just because the longer format allows for more time to dig in. So the introduction to reports, getting deeper, advanced reporting. If you want to learn more about reports, that is a great place to start. Otherwise, if you have any issues with reports or questions, you can always email support@forefront.education, and best wishes for back to school.